Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. We continue with football. There was action in the CONCACAF Nations League on Tuesday. These are the results. So we had Curacao overcoming Trinidad and Tobago 5-3. No goals in the draw between El Salvador and Martinique. Panama a 3-0 win against Guatemala. In League B, Bermuda 1-0 draw against Belize. Guyana got the better of Puerto Rico 3-1. And Antigua and Barbuda a 2-2 draw against Bahamas. In League C, just one match there. Cayman Islands a 2-1 win against United States, US Virgin Islands. All right, so despite their loss on Tuesday night, Trinidad and Tobago have advanced to the quarterfinals of League A. The Soca Warriors finished second in their group on 9 points, one behind Honduras. So this is how the table looks now. Panama at the top of League A, Group B on 10 points. We have Trinidad and Tobago in second on 9 points. Then, of course, Martinique and Guatemala in third and fourth, 7 points and 4 points, respectively. Notice Curacao and El Salvador struggling there at the bottom of that group. So, Trinidad and Tobago head coach Angus Eve says they have achieved their objective.
I think the campaign was a huge success. As I keep saying, nobody expected us to be where we were coming into this final game. And we qualified to play in the quarterfinals of the Cup. This is a rebuilding, process that we're going through. And you're going to have days that you have your ups and downs. But I thought a lot of questionable calls by the referee today. I haven't seen the tape. I'm not one of them to talk about the referees much, but today I thought that, the 3 penalties, maybe one, the other 2, and Denzel made a save. He said it crossed the line. It didn't look like it. Denzel doesn't feel that it crossed the line. So, but all in all, I think we did a very good campaign, and we're still alive when other people are going home.
Well, by virtue of finishing second in the group, Trinidad and Tobago will face United States in the quarterfinal round. They'll host the Americans in the first leg on November 16 before traveling for the return leg on the 20th. So team Trinidad and Tobago, and I said this in the last show, we have spoken about the Soca Warriors for everything else except proper football. They finished the group. They wasn't able to top the group like some of the other Caribbean countries, but I will say good stuff from the Soca Warriors.
Yeah, definitely. I think if at the start of this campaign you'd said to Angus Eve, you'll get to the quarterfinals of the Nations League, and I think to the entire Trinidad and Tobago football fraternity, then they would have taken that result. Nervous moments last night because they could have found themselves on the outside looking in if Martinique had gotten a convincing victory in their game. Martinique unable to do that, but this was a wild game, Trinidad and Tobago versus Curacao. Curacao going up by 3-0. There was a period of 13 minutes where 4 goals were scored. In that 13-minute period as well, Curacao missed a penalty. Angus Eve spoke about some of the calls, one of them to do with the penalty call, and the resulting save did not cost Trinidad and Tobago. So that call, I thought it wasn't a penalty either, but that call didn't cost Trinidad and Tobago because the save was made. But a real wild game, and Trinidad and Tobago showed fight, and that was important because I think they also understood that they needed to score goals, though, to have as healthy a goal difference as possible, just in case Martinique won their game. As it turned out, Martinique didn't win and they didn't need the goals, but it was good to see them showing character and fight. They have the USA in November. Remember, Gold Cup campaign, Lance and Mariah, they lost by 6-0. And so I think going into that tie, for Trinidad and Tobago, it has to be about what did we learn from the last time? How can we improve? How can we put together better performances And that USA test over 2 legs will go a long way in determining how far this Angus Eve coach team has come in the last couple of months.
Yeah, well, I want to go back to some of the things that Brent Sancho had said when we were discussing and previewing, well, reviewing and previewing the TNT games. And it is a fact that the TNT strategy under Angus Eve has been a lot more defensive than culturally we have grown to expect Trinidad and Tobago to play. And they've played a lot of low block football, especially given the opponents that they might have faced. Having said that, they've conceded a lot of goals. They have scored goals at will as well. So the term you just used, Ricardo, that the game was wild, the Friday night game against Guatemala was wild as well. So I think there would be some cause for concern that they are conceding so many goals. But Angus is correct about the rebuilding phase because he has lost some quality players in his setup. Kevin Molino, their most talented midfielder now for probably close to a decade, quit international football in an obvious row or confrontation with his coach. They obviously disagree on strategies, and there's some changing room negative feedback that we're getting from that kind of interaction for the team coming out of the Gold Cup. So he now has a younger team building Angus Eve, and that's hard to do. It's hard to do, and the fans would have to be patient because if you're rebuilding and you have a lot of inexperienced players in your setup, then the fans have to be patient and wait for the team to build to the level that you want them to get to. But TNT has been a Caribbean powerhouse now for many, many decades, playing attractive football, good offensive ball handling players, and we're not seeing too much of that at the moment. But I think Angus is coaching based on the tools that he has, and I would have to give him credit for the results he's getting.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we can attribute to Angus is he gets the respect in the dressing room because he would have walked that path already. So the players are very receptive to his style. I remember when I was going to Naprima
The ones
Girls,
who have stayed.
Yeah. I remember when I was going to Naprima Girls, Angus was actually, coaching Naprima College. And I think he's a person that a lot of the players that stayed, according to Ricardo, believe in his philosophy. And if he continues, because one of my issues, and I have the same issue here in Jamaica, the chopping and changing of coaches once things don't go the way that the organizers and those on the bodies want, they get rid of the coach. And for me, I like the direction that the Soca Warriors are heading right now under Angus Eve. I'm not even looking at the results. I'm looking at, as you said, Lance, the rebuilding phase, the crop of young players. And I think even if against USA we're mauled, I still think we just have to keep working on the project that has started.
Yeah, I want to say, though, that which is why I started the conversation by saying if at the start of the campaign you had told the Trinidad and Tobago football fraternity that they would have gotten out of this group and into the quarterfinals of the Nations League, you're talking about a group with Panama, who has been a top team in the CONCACAF region for a number of years now. Martinique have had a good time in recent Gold Cup campaigns, and they've looked pretty nippy. And that Trinidad and Tobago would get through that group with Curacao, who have been Caribbean champions in recent times as well. And they showed their quality at home last night. To get out of that group, for me, has to be a big deal for Trinidad and Tobago's football, given where the football is coming from. Angus Eve quickly made a couple of points at the back end of last night. One having to do with the surface and the players probably being unaccustomed to playing on the turf, and that may have affected the performance last night. And he also spoke to the timing of the local league in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, TTP.
That a lot of his players are outside of their season, the main part of their season, while they're coming up against teams who are pretty much in season. So they are fit, they are ready to play. And maybe that is something that has to be looked at in Trinidad and Tobago as well as to when the season is. Of course, maybe last time around, for reasons beyond the control of many, it was at the time that it was. but maybe it is something that has to be looked at as well in terms of the international calendar and when you want your players to be most active with the TNT Premier League.
Yeah, well, we're going to move away from Trinidad and Tobago and we're going to head across now to the Guyana Jaguars. They have strengthened their position at the top of Group D in League B after coming from behind to beat Puerto Rico 3-1 for their fourth consecutive victory. After the match, head coach Jamal Shabazz spoke glowingly of the team. So this is what he said: extremely proud of all the staff and the players and very happy for the GFF and our Guyanese people home and abroad. We made errors and also forced them into errors. Fortune favors the brave. We have developed an identity of how we want Guyana to play. Plenty of room for improvement. We have done our job for our country and our federation, and the praise is due to Allah. Well, the Jaguars are now one win away from advancing to League A of the Nations League. They next play Bahamas and Antigua and Barbuda in November. So Lance and Ricardo, the Jaguars are ranked 166th in the world. Promotion to League A would be a massive achievement. Lance, you're first.
Well, to be honest with you, Jamal Shabazz has been a fairly well-travelled coach in Caribbean football. Before he took this Ghana job, he was in St. Lucia. And of course, he had been coach of the Guyanese before now. And he has coached extensively in Trinidad and Tobago as well.
Yes.
One of the things I think goes for Shabazz here is that he's a culturally solid Caribbean person. And while he coached TNT Pro League football, there were a lot of Guyanese who played in his team. So I like the fact that Shabazz is the kind of person that embraces Caribbean talent. And he is a good fit for Guyana's football because of that and because he sees the Caribbean in an integrated way. And the fact that they've scored 14 goals in 4 matches in this current window speaks volumes for this Guyana team and its current form.
Yes.
And I'm really, really happy to see the Jaguars getting the results that they are getting at the moment from Jamal Shabazz's stewardship.
Yeah, this is a project I think that has been in motion for a few years now. A number of, I made the point yesterday as well, that like Jamaica, where you see a lot of overseas-based, English-based players being recruited, for want of a better term, we are seeing a similar thing in Guyana, and the talent very much coming through. I've been especially impressed, though, with their 19-year-old Omari Glasgow, who has scored 13 goals in 19 matches for the Jaguars. And in Nations League play, he's already scored 6 goals. He is leading League B in goal scoring. There are some in Guyana who feels that this 19-year-old kid is the Guyanese version of Dejon Whisper Richards.
Do you have friends in Guyana?
I have friends everywhere, Mariah, but he is showing quality. He has a terrific right foot on him. Currently with the MLS Next Pro team, Chicago 2. And yeah, I just think this is a kid that we have to watch out for, and definitely a youngster that can serve Guyana's football for a long time to come. And you spoke about their goal scoring, Lance. He scored the 3rd goal in yesterday's match against Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
He is a large part of why they have been so prolific in front of goal. They have a nice attacking unit. And I can't wait to see when they move into League A, because I have no doubt that they will be in League A next season. I can't see Bahamas and Antigua and Barbuda stopping them in November.
Well, we'll follow it very, very closely. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we still have cricket, we have football, we have interactive, a lot more just for you.